Now I'm going to turn over to 2 Corinthians and pass on here God's basis, principle by which we're to give. Will you listen? Moreover, brethren, we do you to wit of the grace of God bestowed on the churches of Macedonia, how that in a great trial of affliction, the abundance of their joy and their deep poverty abounded unto the riches of their liberality. For to their power I bear record, yea, and beyond their power they were willing of themselves, praying us with much entreaty that we would receive the gift and take upon us the fellowship of the ministering to the saints. And this they did, not as we hoped, but first gave their own selves to the Lord and unto us by the will of God. Now, let me make this statement, that today it's so much easier and nicer to say, give a tenth to the Lord's work. But is that the way that we're to give? Notice how the Macedonians gave, and Paul cites them to the Corinthians as an example. They first gave themselves to the Lord. Now, the Lord wants you before he wants what you give. I wish I could get that over to people today. Now, Paul goes on to speak in 2 Corinthians, the 8th chapter. He says, for we know the grace of our Lord Jesus Christ, that though he was rich, yet for your sakes he became poor, that ye through his poverty might be rich. And herein I give my advice, and this is expedient for you, who have begun before not only to do, but also to be forward a year ago. Now therefore perform the doing of it. In other words, Paul says, now that you've given yourself to Christ, and you're not keeping books with him now, you're not giving him a tenth because he's demanded it. You're giving to him out of a heart of love. And I believe when you do that, it's going to be more than a tenth. But I do think there are some people today that are actually in poverty and not required to give that tenth. Now, I know that hurts because a great many organizations today are just insisting that you give a tenth to it. And Paul went on to say that this matter of giving is a matter of bounty and not of covetousness, and that if you sow sparingly, you're going to reap sparingly. And that's in the Lord's work today. Now, these are the great principles on which we're to be governed today. One of the reasons that some of us are so poor today is simply because we have been so stingy with God's work, because we're told, every man according as he purposeth in his heart, so let him give, not grudgingly or of necessity, not because you feel like you have to give a tenth. For God loveth a cheerful giver. And this is a grace that he gives to you. And grace giving is different than legal giving, my friend.